Chapter 9: The Art of Believing in Yourself Again. There comes a time in every life when faith in oneself begins to flicker, like a candle struggling against the wind. It's not because the flame is weak, but because life, in its unpredictable rhythm, keeps testing how much light we can hold through the darkness. For me, believing in myself again was not a single moment of awakening. It was a slow, tender unfolding, an act of remember who I was before the world told me who I should be. The mirror of self-doubt. After many seasons of life, marriage, motherhood, loss, success, migration, and survival, there were still days I would look in the mirror and not fully recognize the woman staring back. She had lived through war and exile, built new life in a foreign land, raised children, and built a career. Yet somewhere along the way, she had misplaced her name, her language, her faith in her own reflection. There is a quiet grief that comes when you lose your sense of identity, not because someone took it, but because you handed it over piece by piece just to belong. When I came to the West, I was given new expectations, a new rhythm of life, and even a new name, my birth name, written carefully on my birth certificate back in Vietnam, carried with it the voice of my ancestors, the fragrance of the soil, and the blessing of my parents. It was not just a label, it was an identity, a vibration, a spiritual seal that connected me to generations before me. But when I married, I was told that my last name should change. The Western culture, it was a symbol of unity, a mark of belonging to one family. Yet to me, it felt like another piece of my soul was being erased. My name was not just a sound, it was my story, my origin, my truth. I remember the day I signed my new name for the first time. My hand trembled slightly, not because I disliked my husband or our union, but because something sacred felt displaced. My name, the one given to me at birth, was like a prayer whispered by my mother. To let go felt like losing a part of myself in exchange for acceptance. The weight of two words. It took me many years to understand that this conflict was not merely about names, it was about identity. The Western world values independence and reinvention. To them, changing a name is a symbol of starting anew, of embracing partnership. But in my heart, I came from a culture where names carry ancestral spirits, moral duties, and an invisible roots. A name is not just what you are called, it's a spiritual code, a reminder of where you belong. Living between these two worlds created an inner conflict that I could not name at first. When I introduced myself with my Western name, people saw a professional, articulate woman who had made it in America. But when I whispered my Vietnamese name, I felt the earth under my feet, the smell of the rice fields, and the sound of the monsoon rain. That name carried both pain and pride. It reminded me that I once crossed the ocean to survive, that I was more than just a title, more than just a signature on paper. The question that haunted me for years was this: can I truly believe in myself if I have forgotten who I am? For a long time, I believed that belonging meant conforming. I silenced my accent to sound American. I smiled politely when people mispronounced my name. I buried the small parts of myself that didn't fit the image of success in the Western world. But the more I adjusted, the more invisible I became to others and eventually to myself. It wasn't until later in life, after the children were grown and the house had quieted, that I wrote my first two books and began hearing my true self calling again. It came softly, like a forgotten melody returning in the night. The voice within. Believing in yourself again begins with listening, true listening to the voice within that you once silenced for the sake of others. That voice had been buried beneath years of duty, guilt, and cultural conditioning. It whispered when I was writing late at night, reminding me that the words were my way home. It appeared in my garden, where I could hear the rhythm of life in the rustle of leaves and whisper of the wind. It said, "You are enough, you are whole, you have always been who you were meant to be." For so long, I measured my worth through the eyes of others, whether as a mother, a wife, a professional. I forgot that I was also a soul in her own right, deserving of love, not for what she did, but for who she was. The day I began to appreciate the person whose name was written on my birth certificate was the day I reclaimed my wholeness. That simple piece of paper, once overlooked, became sacred again. It was not just proof of existence, it was evidence of identity. Evidence of identity. It reminded me that I had once been a little girl who dreamed by the riverbanks of the Lat, who gazed at the stars with wonder long before the world told her to be practical. It reminded me that every name carries a destiny, and that destiny is not erased by marriage, or migration, or age. It lives on in the choices we make to honor our truth, fulfillment, and enoughness. In the quiet of my later years, I have come to feel deeply fulfilled, not because I have everything I have ever wanted, but because I finally understand the meaning of enough. Enough is not complacency, it's peace. It is the deep breath after a long journey, the stillness of realizing you no longer need to prove anything to anyone. I no longer chase the illusion of being more successful, more admired, more productive. The greatest wealth I have ever known is the joy of simply being myself. When I sit in the garden my husband built, our little oasis, I feel that enoughness in every corner. The flowers bloom not because they compete, but because they are aligned with their own nature. In the pond, fish swim gracefully, not because they are trying to impress anyone, but because they are at home in the water. And I too am at home in myself now. I think of all the times I doubted my worth, after failures, after disappointments, after being misunderstood. Each of those moments feel like a night with no stars. Yet each time the dawn returns. That's the art of believing in yourself again. It's like sunrise. It comes not because we demand it, but because we finally open the window to let light in. The seasons of self-belief. There are seasons in self-belief. In youth, it's bold and loud, a confidence born from dreams and energy. In middle life, it wavers, tested by responsibility, comparison, and loss. But in maturity, it returns softer, wiser, and more grounded. Believing in yourself again after life's disappointments requires compassion. It means forgiving yourself for the mistakes you made when you didn't know better. It means seeing failure not as a curse, but a mirror showing you where you need to grow. When I fell, it wasn't because I was incapable, it was because I was human, and every human being must stumble before they find their rhythm. I've come to realize that the universe never stops believing in us. It is we who stop believing in ourselves. The moment we reawaken that trust, doors begin to open again, people begin to appear, opportunities align, and it's as if life was always waiting for us to remember our own light. The power of self-trust. Self-trust is not arrogant, it's faith in your own divine essence. When you trust yourself, you stop begging the world for validation. You begin to move with quiet confidence, to speak your truth without fear of rejections, to create not for applause but from love. It's taken me decades to reach this state, to believe that my words matter, that my thoughts have meaning, and that my journey, with all its contradictions, was never a mistake. When I look back, I see that every disappointment was actually a redirection. Every loss led me closer to authenticity. Every confusion about my identity forced me to define it for myself. I no longer feel the need to choose between my Vietnamese self or my Western self. I'm both. I am a bridge between two worlds, carrying both the discipline of tradition and the freedom of modernity. My name, whether spoken in English or Vietnamese, now feels home because I have accepted that my true identity lies not in the pronunciation but in the spirit that carries it. The return of the true self, reclaiming belief in oneself, is not about becoming someone new. It's about returning to the person you were before fear, expectation, and disappointment clouded your vision. When I was a child, I believed in miracles. I believed that the universe was alive and that life spoke to us in symbols. The wind, the sea, the stars. As I grew older, logic tried to silence that magic, but my heart, the joy never died. She was simply waiting for me to remember her. Now when I write, when I sit in silence, or when I watch the sunrise, I can feel her again, the innocent faith that life is good, that people are kind, and that everything unfolds in divine timing. Believing in yourself again is not just a psychological act, it's a spiritual. It's the art of surrendering your fear and choosing love instead. It's about recognizing that every breath you take is proof that you are meant to be here and your existence itself is already divine. Faith as a window. Faith, I've learned, is not about seeing, it's about open the window. You don't need to control the sunrise, you need to just open your eyes to see it. Self-belief works the same way. It's not about forcing confidence, it's about removing the doubts that block your natural light. There was a time I kept asking the universe for signs, for affirmation that I was on the right path. The answers came not in loud miracles, but in quiet moments of grace. A letter from an old friend, a blooming flower in winter, the peaceful morning when I felt whole again. That's how the universe speaks, through the ordinary, in the language of present and the moment. Began to trust myself again. Life responded in kind. Opportunities return, joy returns, creativity returns. When you believe in yourself, the universe begins to believe in you. Because you and the universe are not separate, you are one in the same, breathing in rhythm with the divine. Lesson from the journey. If I were to summarize what I've learned before the art of believing in yourself again, it would be these truths. First, your name is sacred, but your soul is eternal. The name you carry is a symbol of your history, but your identity transcends it. You can honor your roots while still growing new branches. Second, you are not defined by others' opinions. The world's misunderstanding of you does not diminish your worth. Only you can decide how much light to give yourself. Third, fulfillment comes from appreciation, not acquisition. Gratitude turns every ordinary moment into gold. When you stop chasing more, life starts to feel abundant. Fourth, self-trust is the foundation of peace. When you trust yourself, you stop resisting life. You begin to flow, and life flows with you. Fifth, belief is a practice, not a possession. Just as sunrise returns each morning, belief must be renewed daily with prayer, silence, and compassion for oneself. Becoming whole again. Today, when I introduce myself, I no longer flinch at the question, what is my real name? I smile and say both, because both are real. Both are parts of a woman I've become, the one who crossed the ocean to build a new life, and the one who still carries the lullabies of her motherland. I have learned that belief in yourself again does not mean erasing the scars. It means embracing them as proof that you have lived deeply. It means forgiving yourself for all the times you forgot your worth. It means standing tall in your truth even when others don't understand it. I am fulfilled, I am enough. And in the quiet of that realization, I finally hear the universe whisper back, yes, you are. Believing in yourself is not an act of ego, it is the act of love. It's telling your soul, I see you, I remember you, I trust you. And when you do, life begins to unfold with same grace as sunrise, effortless, radiant, and eternal. A morning of return. The art of believing in yourself again is not a dramatic moment or a transformation. It's quiet. It happens in stillness, when no one is watching, when the applause has faded, and when you finally have the courage to sit with your own heart. There was a morning not long ago when I woke up before sunrise. The house was silent. I went out to the garden barefoot, feeling the dew under my feet. The horizon was soft and gray, the world just beginning to breathe light again. As I stood there, I realized that my life had come full circles. I had spent decades searching for success, for belonging, for approval, yet in that moment, surrounded with nature's gentle silence, I understood that What I have been looking for was never lost. It was simply waiting for me to return. Belief, I realize, is not a thought, it's a vibration, a feeling of alignment between who you are and who you were meant to be. When those two finally meet, peace settles in your bones. You no longer need to strive or defend or explain. You just are. I thought about my name then, the one given at birth and the one I adopted later in life. Both had stories, both had pain and beauty woven into them, but beneath both names lived the same soul, the same consciousness that once gazed at the ocean as the refugee, the same heart that watched her sons grow, the same spirit that kept rising after each fall. And I whispered to myself, I believe in you. I felt strange at first, talking to my own soul, but the moment I say it, tears came, not from sadness, but from release. For the first time, I was no longer waiting for someone else to say it to me. I was enough to tell it to myself. That is the real art, the sacred act of remembering that you are your own home. Believing in yourself again does not mean you will never doubt. It means that even when doubts comes, you have built a sanctuary inside your heart where faith can rest. It means that when the world forgets your worth, you remember it anyway. We all have different journeys, but the destination is the same, to come back to the truth that we are divine beings living a human experience, not the other way around. When you remember that, self-belief becomes effortless because it's no longer about the ego, it's about honoring the life within you that has always known its way. As the sun rose that morning, its golden light touched the edges of every leaf, every petal, every quiet corner of my garden, and I felt the warmth spread through me, not just as light, but as understanding. I finally believe again, not because the world told me to, but because my soul whispered, welcome home.